Welcome to the Private School Leader Podcast, where private school leaders learn how to thrive and not just survive as they serve and lead their schools. I strongly believe that it is possible to have a long and happy and fulfilling career as a private school leader. And my passion is to help you figure out exactly how to do just that, right here on the Private School Leader Podcast. And I'm your host, Mark Minkus. So I want to know if this has ever happened to you. You're out and about in the school, you're in the hallways, you're on your way to or from a meeting, you're just out and about in the school, and you get back to your office. And as you walk into your office, because you're out and about, you've got some decision fatigue, there's some cognitive load, you've expended emotional energy when you were out of your office, and there's also some physical fatigue. And so your brain is kind of just crying out for a hit of dopamine in that moment as you walk into your office. And so you walk in and you sit down at your desk and you kind of stare at your computer screen, and you have that stare of a teenager looking into a refrigerator hoping for some snack to jump out into their mouth, and that's kind of the look on your face. And you're sitting there, you're staring, and you reach for your mouse or your touchpad, you click on the tab that is your email inbox, and you start going through some emails. So if that has ever happened to you, or if it's happened to you multiple times a day, then you're in good company, because I would say about 90% of private school leaders do exactly the same thing. Unfortunately, you just fell into the false productivity trap, because you need that dopamine hit, and your brain doesn't know the difference between a high-value task and a low-value task, and you want to feel productive, you want to feel like you're getting things done, and so the easiest thing to do is to respond to a few emails. The problem with that is that you're not working on your tasks, you're working on others' tasks, because you've heard me say before that your email inbox is a chronological list of everyone else's priorities. And then, unfortunately, to make things worse, you get to start on your work, your tasks, when the school gets quiet because the teachers and the kids have left for the day. And so I want to give you an unorthodox way of keeping you out of your email inbox and keeping you from dipping in and out of it all day long. And that unorthodox framework has to do with cookies. So on today's episode of the Private School Leader Podcast, we are going to discuss how OREO cookies can help you tame your email inbox. And if you're listening to this in real time, your teacher in service days are right around the corner, and you have a problem that I can help you solve. Your problem is that you want to have high quality professional development for your teachers, but your problem is that you're too busy to plan it, and it's really difficult to find PD that's relevant for preschool through 12th grade or preschool through 8th grade faculty that would all be in the room at the same time during in-service. And also another problem is that teacher in service in August is hard enough, but what about that PD day in the fall and that PD day in the late winter, early spring? And the last problem is that usually high quality PD is really expensive. So I want to solve all those problems for you with Private School Teacher Academy. These are 4 on-demand webinars. They're 50 minutes each. Guided notes, discussion questions, teacher resources, a mini poster to go with it at the end. And the 4 titles are the 5 keys to having your best school year ever, the differentiation playbook, helping every student learn without burning yourself out, the 6 habits of an outstanding private school teacher, and how to better support students who have mental health struggles. And as I record this, there are a couple of dozen private school leaders who've purchased Private School Teacher Academy. It only came out about 3 weeks ago. And 2 of those have used it this week at their in service with their teachers. And I get the question, well, there's 4 webinars. Do I need to do them in any order? Do I need to do all 4 of them during in-service? These are all standalone webinars. You can decide when you use them with your teachers. You have lifetime access. If someone's absent, then after the fact, you can share the link to the video and the guided notes. And so this is a complete year of some high-quality PD for you and your teachers, and I can solve those problems for you with the Private School Teacher Academy. And the way you can check out more about that as far as testimonials and just seeing what's included and the pricing, just go to theprivateschoolleader.com/teacher to see more about Private School Teacher Academy. That's at theprivateschoolleader.com/teacher. And I want to give you a free resource to say thank you for listening to the podcast. And this one's called The Top 6 Ways to Protect Your School from a Lawsuit. And this is a 10-page PDF that will help you keep your staff and students safe and help keep your school out of court. About 40% of private schools in America have at least one active lawsuit going on right now. And that's expensive and time-consuming and stressful. And so I want to give you a common sense guide so you can be more intentional and proactive when it comes to protecting your school from a lawsuit. So if you go to theprivateschoolleader.com/lawsuit, you can grab that PDF for free. That's the top 6 ways to protect your school from a lawsuit, free for you at theprivateschoolleader.com/lawsuit. So I told you I want to talk about OREO cookies and email today. And I want to tell you that, about 3 years ago, my oldest daughter, she gave me one of the greatest Christmas presents ever. And that was a year of Walmart Plus, where, I go on the app, I order my groceries, and then a few hours later, they show up on my front porch. Very convenient. And so a few months ago, I'm bringing in the groceries, putting them away, and I noticed that there was a party size package of OREO cookies. And I love OREO cookies. So this wasn't a regular size. This wasn't even family size. This was party size. And so I said to my wife, why did you order OREO cookies? She's like, well, I know you like OREO cookies. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to eat the whole package. And so I decided, you know what? I'm only going to eat 3 per day. And I put them on the counter over by the chips. And what happened was, every time I walked through the kitchen, I ate 3 OREO cookies. And they were gone pretty fast. And so I told my wife, please don't order any more OREO cookies. Well, a week or 2 goes by, and there's another Walmart Plus order on the front porch. And as I'm bringing them in, I notice another party size OREO cookies. And I said, what's going on? She's like, oh, I forgot. So I thought, okay, I don't want to do this the way I did it last time. And it just so happened that a few days prior, we had kind of reorganized and threw out some Tupperware. So our Tupperware cupboard had some space in it. And so 18 to 20 inches above the countertop where those OREO cookies had sat the last time, I just put them inside the Tupperware container. And I said to myself, I'm only going to eat 3 per day. And do you want to know what happened? I only ate 3 per day until they were gone. Because that cupboard door created friction, and it caused me to pause long enough to just remind myself, oh yeah, 3 per day. I already had my 3 today. And then I wouldn't eat them all every time I walked through the kitchen. I created friction because there was 0 friction before when they were just sitting on the counter. But now they were out of sight. There was a cupboard door I had to open, and that pause kept me from eating them like I had the first time. So, what on earth does that have to do with your email inbox? Well, in a moment, I want to talk to you about creating friction between you and your email inbox. But I want to talk for a minute about the false productivity trap, because I mentioned at the top of the episode that 90% of school leaders, in my experience, as far as among all my coaching clients and emails that I get from podcast listeners, etc., that about 90% of private school leaders, when they're out and about in the school and they come back and sit down at their desk, that they open up their email and start going through email. And they fall into that false productivity trap. You feel like you're busy, but what you're doing is not really accomplishing your goals. It's really busy work. And like I said, you're performing low-value tasks. It makes you feel productive, but at the end of the day, you didn't accomplish your tasks, and that's the trap. That's the productivity trap that you fall into. And the worst part of it is that you're not doing your tasks, but you're working on everyone else's tasks, because your email inbox is a chronological list of everyone else's priorities. And I was reading a blog by the magazine, or the online magazine Fast Company, and it was a blog post, and it said, quote, "False productivity is when you expend your energy on tasks that don't ultimately help you reach your goals." So you know what false productivity is. And why are we addicted to false productivity? Why are we addicted to our email inbox? Well, there's a long list, but I can give you a couple things. And this is a blog post from flippingcheck.com that I can post in the show notes at theprivateschoolleader.com/episode 199. But one is completion bias. So one of the parts of the false productivity trap could be completion bias, meaning that we have a bias towards action and a bias towards problem solving and a bias towards getting things done. And that's your superpower as a private school leader. But if you apply that to your email inbox and you respond to 6 or 7 emails, you have gotten that dopamine hit from the completion. And there's kind of a bias there that you are being productive, but it's really not true. So it's a completion bias is one reason that we have that false productivity trap when it comes to our email inbox. Another reason is because of random rewards. And so I've only ever been inside of a casino like twice. That's not really I don't have interest in that. But I've seen some people and I've read some stuff, and you've probably heard, even if you've not been in a casino or not been in one in a long time, that there are no clocks inside casinos. There are no windows, so people don't know whether it's light out or dark out. There's extra oxygen that's pumped in. Everything is about keeping the participants at the tables or at the slot machines for as long as possible. And so random rewards comes into play because they've used research from behavioral psychologists about, well, okay, this person that's been sitting at this slot machine for 6 hours, what keeps them at that slot machine? They figured out when it needs to hit, maybe even hit for just $20 or hit for $50. Meanwhile, they're feeding $300, $400, $500 into that machine. The random rewards keep us coming back. And there's a whole bunch of research by B.F. Skinner and others about random rewards. But as it applies to your email inbox, you might be thinking, well, I've never opened an email that felt anything like hitting the jackpot on a slot machine. And I get that. But you also have a bias towards feeling good when you're helping people, because that's what you do for a living. Every once in a while, there's a good email in there, or there's someone following up, or there's someone that's giving you the information that you need. But usually when it comes to random rewards, it's that someone needs you, and you're able to solve the problem quickly because you have a bias towards that, and then you feel good. You get that random reward. And random rewards is very compelling to continue with a behavior, just like that person at the slot machine, because at random intervals, it does hit from time to time. And so another reason that we're addicted to this false productivity trap is the rule of reciprocation. You're a nice guy. You're a nice gal. I have a working title for an upcoming episode, how to overcome nice guy / nice gal syndrome. Because a lot of us are nice people, and that works most of the time, but there are times where that's a real problem for us, especially for me when it came to having difficult conversations to hold people accountable. But this rule of reciprocation is because we're nice, and it's something in us that it's just like, well, it's good manners to reciprocate or to respond to people's emails quickly. And I've worked with leaders who wear it as a badge of honor that they respond to emails within 10 minutes or within 30 minutes. And that's completely upside down. And, I get it that any behavior that we have been in a pattern doing for a long time, that it's going to be difficult to get out of that pattern. I understand that. But the rule of reciprocation is another reason. And then the fourth reason that I have listed here is that there's shame attached to the hustle culture. And so when it comes to American culture, we have entrepreneurs like Gary Vaynerchuk and others who are glamorized, who have become celebrities, who've got incredible number of followers and their platform on their platforms. And they talk about things like, Gary Vaynerchuk says, well, if you want to start a new business, you need to look at what are you doing between 2 a.m. and 7 a.m. That 5 hours a day is when you're going to start your next business. And so this toxic hustle culture mentality, work, rest is equivalent of laziness, and that we've just got to hustle, that means that we've got to be in there grinding, rise and grind. We got to grind on our email and get back to everybody as quickly as possible. So I've tried to illuminate for you this idea of the false productivity trap. I've tried to paint a picture for you as far as that you being out and about in the school and coming back and opening up email and, why that is now. It's it's the dopamine, it's the false productivity trap, etc. But the problem still is that it comes the end of the day at a time when you want to leave and you still have to do all your work before you can leave. And so I want to help you with that. And I said before about that friction between me and the Oreos kept me from eating 3 Oreos every time I went through the kitchen to only eating 3 per day. And my friction was created with the door of the cupboard. It was only 24 inches away from where it was the first time when I ate them nonstop. And so how can we create some friction for you between you and your email inbox so that you can pause and just ask yourself the question, what should I be doing right now? Now, I'm going to help you with that if you want to go a little deeper, because I'm going to link episode 7, which are the 4 productivity hacks for busy private school leaders. And one of those hacks is called the power of an index card, because it's sort of like, okay, I get back to my office and I open up the email inbox. Part of the reason that you do that is because you don't know what to do, and it takes energy to figure out what you are going to do next. Well, I want to take the guesswork out of that for you by having you lean into the power of an index card. So I'll link that in the show notes at theprivateschoolleader.com/episode 199. And that's something that I believe will really help you tremendously is that instead of reaching for your phone and the email icon or clicking on the tab that is on your screen, or having your notifications turned on so that no matter where you are, including the bathroom, that you can respond immediately to those emails, I'm going to have you reaching for an index card that has your 3 must-do tasks on it for the day. So that's episode number 7 of the Private School Leader podcast. But just quickly, let me tell you how we're going to help you create friction. Number 1, you're going to turn off email notifications for your school email. Now, I know many of you have done that are listening to this podcast, but there are still many of you that are listening that have your email notifications turned on all day, or you have them turned on during the school day. So let me persuade you for a moment that during the school day, they have about 5, they being the office staff, the security, the school resource officer, the security officer, the maintenance director, whoever. So there's an emerging issue. There's a crisis. They need you right away to go to room whatever. Okay. there are about 5 different ways that they can get in touch with you. And it's calling your cell phone, it's texting your cell phone, it's getting you on the walkie-talkie, it's buzzing your phone desk, the intercom phone desk, or it's announcing over the PA system, Mr. Minkus, please go to room 204 immediately. That's 5 different ways that they can get in touch with you if they need you urgently. None of those ways are email, because you and I both know that if they need you during the day, they're not going to send you an email to say they need you to go to room 204. They're going to use one of those 5 other ways. And the same is true in the evenings, the weeknights and the weekends, because I have clients who are like, yeah, but I got to check my email all the time in the evening, and I got to have those email notifications on because, somebody might, there might be a big problem with this at the school. Maybe the roof is leaking, or God forbid that a teacher got into a car accident and is a little banged up and is in the hospital, or fill in the blank. Okay, that's true. Those things happen. But almost without exception, when I've asked a private school leader this question, the answer has been the same. The question is, if something urgent, crisis level happens, is someone going to call you or text you and tell you that? And the answer is almost always yes. They are very, very, very unlikely. It is very, very unlikely that information is going to be in an email that's in your email inbox. But you know what is in your email inbox on weeknights and weekends? Is some parent who has a silly question, and or a parent who's ticked off about something that their kid said when they got home from, after their piano lesson and after their soccer practice, about something that happened in class that isn't really true, and they're all upset, and it's capital letters and it's exclamation points and whatever, and now your evening is ruined because you've invited that parent into your home to sit next to you on the couch while you're watching Netflix. So we're going to turn off email notifications, and we're going to remind ourselves that there are plenty of other ways that they're going to be able to get a hold of you during the day and or during weeknights and weekends. Hopefully I've convinced you. Okay. The second way that we're going to create more friction between you and your email inbox is to swipe twice. So when you push the button on your home screen to light up smartphone to light up your home screen, and if you're driving, I don't want you to do this, but if you're not driving, maybe you can. And my question is, how many swipes does it take you to get to the icon for your school email? Almost everyone, the answer is 0, because it's on the home screen, or 1. And what I'm challenging you to do when it comes to creating more friction between you and your email, especially with your smartphone, because that's your portal to school stuff on weeknights and weekends, is what I'm challenging you with is to move the icon 2 swipes. And I have a coaching client in Iowa, and she took it a step further, and she had a little icon for a Bible app, and I think it was the bottom right corner of her home screen was where her email icon was, and then she moved it and swiped it twice, put it 2 swipes away. And what she was noticing is that there were many, many times on weeknights and weekends when she would look at her phone and there'd be a Bible verse on the screen. Well, you know why that was happening, because her thumb had been trained to go to that spot and open email, refresh email. She'd be playing catch with her son or making dinner, and she wasn't even consciously checking it, but it was, and the proof of that is that these Bible verses were on her screen, because before that was the subject lines of emails in her school email inbox. And so when you move it 2 swipes, what I've heard from coaching clients and podcast listeners over the past, let's say over 3 years, is that people who move at 2 swipes that within 2 weeks, they're reporting that they check email about 80% less often on weeknights and weekends. That's because you put the Oreos in the Tupperware cupboard. You move the icon away so that there's some friction between you and your email icon. Don't make it so easy for you that your finger, your thumb, can automatically and unconsciously be checking email. So we want to create friction. We want to swipe twice. And then the last way that I want to try and persuade you to consider is that on your computer, on your laptop or your desktop, whatever you use at school, across the top, you have open tabs. And one of those tabs is your email. And so I'm just going to give you a suggestion based on Chrome and Gmail, but this would work the same with Safari or Firefox or whatever, and whatever, email you use. But if you have your computer open, your laptop, your desktop, and you go and you take your little arrow and you hover over the Chrome logo on the bottom and you right click, it will say open window. Right click and open a window. And then go into that window and open your email. And then go back down and hover over it again. Now 2 squares will pop up, the one with all your tabs open and the one with only one tab open. Go back in there with all the tabs and then close the tab that is your email inbox. So you're closing a tab and opening a window. Now what happens is when you're out and about in the school and you come back, you've created friction for yourself, because most email inboxes have a little parentheses with the number of unopened emails in that little parentheses. And most people subconsciously know what that number was. And you sure know that that number went up while you were out of your office. And it's almost a compulsion to click on that. I've worked with clients who have a certain number. One person, the number was 12. I had another client and her number was 24. And if it goes above that number, they couldn't help themselves. They got to go in there and get it down to below that number. Well, if it's in the window and not in a tab, you're not going to see that number when you come back from somewhere. And so what I'm trying to do is to get you to see that it's totally understandable as to why you would be in and out of your email inbox all day. That's because of the false productivity trap. Feeling productive, you get that dopamine hit, you feel better, you feel busy, you feel productive. But then all your work is still needing to be done at the end of the day. And so, how I want to help you get there is, first of all, to recognize through my silly story about Oreos that if you create friction, you get a little pause, and that gets you to pause and ask yourself the question, do I really need to be doing email right now? Do I really need to be eating more cookies right now? And that pause is created, I created friction with the cupboard door of the Tupperware cupboard between me and my Oreos. You can move your icon. You can shut off your notifications so that it isn't buzzing or dinging all the time and you're immediately checking it. You can swipe twice and move your icon 2 swipes away from your home screen. Or you can close a tab and open a window. And then when you want to go into email, you can go hover over the Chrome logo or the Firefox or Safari logo at the bottom of your screen. The 2 squares will open up. Click on the square that only has the email, but you've created friction between you and your email inbox. And you've got to then know, what am I going to do instead of reaching for that tab? And that's where your index card comes in with your must-dos on it. If you don't have time to listen to that episode, just know that you've got your 3 or 4 must-dos that you come up with in the morning. It's on an index card within easy reach, and you're always reaching for your index card. But if you want to get the philosophy and the strategies behind it, you can listen to episode 7 of the podcast. So what's your call to action for today's episode? I just want you to do one thing to create more friction between you and your email inbox. Just do one thing to create more friction between you and your email inbox. And then just a quick reminder, the 6 ways to protect your school from a lawsuit is a free PDF for you at theprivateschoolleader.com/lawsuit, and that the Private School Teacher Academy can be a game changer for you and your teachers with meaningful PD, 4 on-demand webinars, guided notes, discussion questions, teacher resources, a mini poster. It's all there for you to check out at theprivateschoolleader.com/teacher. I've mentioned that theprivateschoolleader.com/episode 199 is where you can find the show notes. And if you get value from this episode or any episode, I would really appreciate it if you would share a link to the Private School Leader podcast to another leader in your life or a rising leader at your school. And I've been your host, Mark Minkus. I just want to say how much I appreciate you and all the amazing hard work that you do for those teachers and kids at your school. Thank you so much for taking some of your precious time to join me here today. And I'll see you next time right here on the Private School Leader podcast. And until then, always remember to serve first, lead second, and make a difference.